Welcome to the Show Me the Way podcast. My name is Andrea Miller. I am your host alongside a dear, dear friend, Tammy Thompson, and we are so excited to bring this podcast to you. So, the Show Me the Way podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of those who have faced adversity and found themselves on unexpected paths. We will have meaningful, thoughtful conversations about challenges we have faced and how we discovered and forged new direction. Prepare to be inspired and to uncover your own strength as you listen to relatable and motivating stories. Life has a way of twisting and turning, and we often need a fresh perspective to understand how to navigate. Let's show each other the way. What an honor to interview Lanee Blaise, an angel on earth. Lanee is a podcaster, writer, producer, and motivational speaker. She is also a Bible study leader, encouraging women to find faith and build a relationship with God, to walk with every step of this journey we call life. Lanee has been through many different seasons and has faced family and life adversity. Recognizing she doesn't love change, she understands it's a natural part of life. Through a fun and relatable conversation, Lanee shares how she's managed to be still and recognize when it's time to sit back and let the water in the pot simmer. If you have a huge smile on your face after listening to Lanee like Tammy and I did, we'd love for you to leave a review or a rating for Show Me the Way. Welcome back to the Show Me the Way podcast. Tammy and I are so grateful that we continue to have impactful and introspective interviews with such amazing people. We're enjoying this so much, and we love what we've been doing so far. Today's interview brings us a discussion with someone I refer to as an angel on earth for me, Lanee Blaise. I'll be honest, Lanee is one of the main reasons I got started with this podcast. She also has a podcast with a friend called the Imagine Yourself podcast. So you have to go find that. I love it. I love how she and her friend run it. And so it was quite the inspiration for me. So when I got this idea in my head, I picked her brain about it. I wanted to understand how to be successful. And she gave me great advice, a ton of inspiration, and the encouragement I needed to get started. I met Lanee in 2020 during the difficult time of the COVID pandemic. And you all know I'm an extrovert, and not being able to connect with others in person was really hard for me. So I was talking with one of my closest friends, and she was telling me about this virtual Bible study. Again, virtual, but at least it was a way to meet some new people. And she told me I needed to make sure that if I joined this, it had to be Lanee as the lead. So I went online. I found Lanee's weekly led Bible study. Never met her, just looked for the name. And I decided to join. So at the time, I had some questions about my relationships with my faith and with God. And I also really wanted to connect with a group of people. Immediately, Lanee made me feel at home and like I was exactly where I needed to be. Since then, we've been part of an amazing group of women constantly working on our faith, and she has become a dear, dear friend. I'm so honored she's here with us, and I can't wait for her to show us the way. Welcome, Lanee. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for saying those beautiful things about me. Thank God for having us meet. And like you said, a time that was tough for everybody and for us to still be friends and to still be in that same Bible study, even when everything opened back up and when life is good or life is bad, we're together.
Yes, yes, I love that. Great. So we've been doing this. This will be our 8th episode. And we've just kind of been letting the guests kind of show us their way. And basically, for the Show Me the Way podcast, we just want to know what kind of path you were on, and maybe you had to pivot and what direction you needed to take that was different than what you expected. And we're kind of just allowing you to go with it. So we're going to get there. But before we jump into the story you want to share, just tell us a little bit more about you.
So I love the fact that your podcast does discuss the pivot and the changes because I do think people are meant to embrace change and be willing to go on different pathways when a former pathway doesn't, serve them or isn't the best for them anymore. However, I personally do not like change ever. I like things to stay just the same. I'm cool with it. I don't get bored. I know that's not exactly what you meant when you said, tell me a little something about yourself, but I'm just going to put that out there right now for anybody who is listening who does not really like change, doesn't want to get all warm and cozy and embrace it. I get that. So with that being said, maybe I don't like change because I have had several changes in my life that were things that I had no control over. And maybe that's why, some people, that makes them love it even more and see what life has around the corner. Or maybe that makes people like me think, I don't, I just like this corner right here.
I think you're being real, and I think you're probably hitting on what most people believe. And
Sure.
and you said it right, the control, not having control. I'm sure all of our listeners can relate to that.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Because I mean, I could say real quick. Of course, yes, I have Imagine Yourself podcast. Very happy with, very proud of, very blessed to have that. I love Bible study. I love being a facilitator. And this time, Andrea, we have someone else who's facilitating it, which I get to sit and relax and like really let things sink in, which is very good for introspection. I'm a writer for television and film and a producer. So we're producing a Christmas movie that comes out next year. We have just produced a television show that will be premiered next year. I'm a motivational speaker, all those good things. But the part that I identify with even more than those professional things is that I have 6 siblings. So there's 7 of us. And that is not very common nowadays. And part of it is because my parents were divorced when I was a little kid, and then they both got remarried and then started having kids and kept having kids. And so, even the part, just mentioning the part that my parents were divorced, that's something I couldn't control. I had to learn to embrace that. When I had all the sisters and brothers, well, all the sisters and my poor one brother, I kept having sister after sister, and there were twin sisters and more sisters and stepsisters and half sisters. And then my dad was like, I have to have a son. And it's like, well, God seemed like he's not letting that happen biologically. So he and my stepmom went out and adopted my brother when I was like, it's like, I'm 20 years older than him. So I was like 20 years old. And I'm like, I'm grown. And they're like, yep, we're going to go get you a brother. So again, something I didn't have control over, but he is the most amazing brother and man I could have ever asked for to be in our family. So all this to say, sometimes these changes can turn out to be wonderful. And even the fact that my parents were divorced, that turned out for the best too. Everybody worked out just right. But in with my career, it took a long time for my career to take off. I kept thinking, all these ideas of what I was going to do and be and my purpose and my profession. And it took a long time. I was like one of those slow to launch, I guess, people in my career. I really, enjoy being a mom and a wife. I have 2 kids, and my husband was my college sweetheart. So I have a lot of blessings. But yeah, I don't always like change. But I've had to embrace it, and I'm here today to kind of help others try to embrace it too. So bam.
I love that, and I so enjoy when you talk about your family. There's so much love there, and there's some babies coming too. So
Oh my
you're
gosh,
growing.
yes. Growing all my, because I'm 14 years older than the twins. Those are my sisters, and I'm 20 years older than my brother. Uh, I have all these sisters and brothers way younger than me. So they're just now getting married and having kids. So I have all these nieces and nephews. 2 of my sisters that are the same age are having babies one day apart next year. February 9th and 10th. And then my brother just called us and he's like, hey, by the way, my wife and I are going to also have a baby a couple months after that. So it's like new growth, new blessings, new wonderful things popping into the world.
That's amazing. But I really like how you said bam, like this is to talk about how a lot of us, most of us, we don't really like change. Like, I don't really know anyone that's like, can't wait for tomorrow's big change to happen? So I think most people relate to that. And I don't know that we have touched on that at all
No,
in this podcast
mm-mm.
yet.
No, it's something where, like, unless it's guaranteed that not only is it going to be a good change, but that I personally think that it's going to be a good change, which is, not the way things work. That's the hang up. And I was thinking about this before I got on here today, and I was thinking about the fact that, okay, if we can look deep and hard for some of the things that were blessings in it, or like we can even say a big chunk of it sucked and was uncomfortable, inconvenient, frustrating, not great, do not recommend. But if we can just try to find some slither in there that was helpful and was good and did grow us and did teach us, and that maybe even put us in a different mindset, mind frame, new pathway that we wouldn't have been on before, then maybe we can get some good out of it. Because I don't want to be like overly positive and be like, it didn't suck. It was really great. No, some of it was terrible. I did not like it at all. But there's some wonderful pieces. And when you focus on that, it helps at least add value to the whole experience. Because, like, sometimes you have to move, or sometimes you're let go from your job or something like that. That's a change. And say you like the job maybe, or you like the pay, that's not something that you want. And you can, say, oh, well, I'll just look for a new job and it'll be something great. And that's not usually how we see it. But if we can say, yeah, that was very inconvenient to my life, did not like it. But there is this one part that I did get from it. And I'll try to focus on that in the meantime. I think that's hopeful. Because like you said, my parents got divorced. They probably didn't want that. But now we could have Thanksgiving dinner, all of us together, which is interesting. And because now they have shared grandchildren and graduation, stuff like that, it is now made for a bigger, more robust family and situation. I know all about personality types now because I've got my parents and my step parents and my siblings. And it's just, so I like try to focus on the good things while acknowledging the frustrating.
I love that. That's we could stop there. Drop the pen, the mic, because that's really good advice for everybody. But I will say that some people are choosing a specific thing in their life, and not that you have to, but if there's something you wanted to share about a time that you had to pivot, is there a specific thing you would want to talk about that happened to you?
Yeah, I want to say about two messages that I got in my life. That I'm a very faith-filled person, and I have learned over time how to understand when God is either nudging me or sending a message, because it does tend to like just seep through in multiple times. Like, I mean, literally, maybe even pass by and see a billboard with the message up there. It's like, okay, I get it now. I know you're trying to tell me this. And so when we listen to those godly messages and we see how we're supposed to use them, then many times we can avoid some of the frustrating parts. But if we don't, which I have definitely done that before, then sometimes it might actually take like a physical thing. Like, I had been told for years to slow down, to savor life, savor my family, savor the moments. Don't try to go rushing out there forcing things, because I think I told you, like, I had a slow launch. So I was thinking, like, I got to do big things. I've got to be somebody and do all this great stuff. So much pressure to go out there and chase it. So the first thing God told me was stop chasing things. Sit still. I will send you things. And when those things resonate with you, accept those things and do that. Second thing was slow down. Stop rushing or you will fall, literally and figuratively. Did Lanee Blaise listen to either of those? No. Was Lanee Blaise forced to listen to those? Yes. Did she have a suck health situation that came? Yes. Does she come back now and say, well, but I did learn from that suck period? Yes. I ended up having to have foot surgery on both feet that took about a year, because you do one foot at a time, totally incapacitated, especially with the right foot that I used to drive in a boot, all the things. Then as soon as that healed enough, then go on to the second foot, have the surgery for that. My mother, God bless her, was able to come and take care of me because my husband was at work a lot and my kids were younger and they couldn't drive, or they couldn't take care of me properly. I savored the time. I savored my mom. I savored my life. I had to go slow. I had to stop rushing and stop chasing. And that was one of the most productive years of my life. That was when I started writing television scripts that were great and got me traction in the industry. That was when I realized that even if something were to happen to my mom, at least, which it didn't, thank God, but at least we got that time together. It made me realize how to physically and spiritually and mentally slow down so that I do not fall. That's what I want to say.
Wow. Well, a couple things that come to mind. So one is getting back to that word control.
Yes.
Something that we talk about often is when we as humans try to control everything, that's when we have issues. So for those of us that believe in God, it's like put it on him instead of thinking that you can control everything because we can't as humans. So it's kind of full circle. Like
Yes.
we don't like change because we don't like to give up control. But on the other hand, sometimes we do need to give up control and understand that hopefully you've got the faith that there's this higher power that it's in his hands, not necessarily our own. So I wanted to touch on that. But just the messages that we get, signs from God, signs from whatever you believe in, how many times do we not listen to it? And we almost need to be hit on the forehead or incapacitated
Yes. Yes.
to truly get those messages, which is crazy when you think about it. I mean, not to say that that wouldn't have had to happen, but it really took that major issue for you to finally say, okay, I'm going to slow down now. I have to. I'm
Yeah.
forced to.
Because that was back 7 years ago. And spoiler alert, I have now the other side of each foot. Will have to have surgery next year because I learned my lesson. I did all the good things and I was in that season beautifully. And then, especially after the COVID pandemic let up, I went wild, did everything, tried to be and do everything. And here I am sitting, looking, within myself and thinking about God, saying, okay, we are about to go and do this again to re emphasize and relearn the message from before. And then this one even comes with kind of like a secondary new message of which I think is for everybody, not just for Lanee, but you go around, we go around searching to have this big purpose and to be on a big scale. And whether that's, big social media, write a book, be Wonder Woman, write a Wonder Woman movie. I don't know. And that is not what God is asking of us many times. I mean, of course, there's definitely some people that that's their passion. They're doing exactly what they're meant to be, and it's supposed to be on a big scale. But there are times when I truly believe that we are meant to love our neighbors, literally, go check on them, love our family members, appreciate our life, sit still with God time. We're supposed to reflect on things. We're supposed to maybe be a mentor, like a Big Brother, Big Sisters of America, or volunteer at Boys and Girls Club America, or something like, or help with the elderly when they're in nursing homes. Something. There is something on a level that we might see as quote unquote small, but that we're supposed to be doing. And so as I sit next year, I'm going to, sign up for the surgery for my feet. I'm going to sit and I'm going to savor life again. I'm going to slow down again. And I'm going to think about, I don't have to, like I already told you about the film and TV that we already did. Those will be done. I won't be stepping into any new ones right away because I will just have to reset and refocus and be still. And I really recommend if anybody listening could kind of take time out and do that for themselves before they have to.
That's funny. We've brought up the pandemic a couple of times on this podcast, which I don't generally love to think about that time. But when you talk to people, so many people, I'm sure Tammy can relate to this because she likes her time to herself. She doesn't need to be around 100 people like I do. But most people will say that's the first time we were still. That's the first time that we didn't have 500 things to do every single day. And we got to spend time with our families and we got to really just dedicate this purpose-filled time to each other. So many people talk about that as a positive during the pandemic. So it's interesting that right when it was done, you were like, "Okay, let's go. I gotta do everything."
Yes. And it's just, and I'm even now that I've had this, reality check, I'll just tell you too. Yesterday, it was actually nice weather here in Michigan. All weekend was. So
Mhm.
yesterday and the day before, I went on a bike ride in my little neighborhood. And then since I'm already outside and it's nice, I took off my tennis shoes and socks and walked around in the backyard in the grass and sat and laid in the grass. And my husband's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I am savoring my life and nature and the yard that we get to have in our home." And I'm looking at the trees change color, and I'm sitting and I'm watching this little squirrel scurry off, and I'm not on my cell phone, and I'm not doing anything. And he's like, "Okay, I'll be inside watching the football game." I'm like, "You do that."
I
But
can picture you doing that. It
yeah,
just brings a smile to my face.
yeah. I've never thought to do that before, except for the pandemic. That was the last time I did something like that. Because back then, like, what else did you do except walk around or like sit in the backyard? But it's like, even in the midst of everything, took that time and did that. And I'm so grateful. Those are nice little things to do that people, I guess they think of as old fashioned. They don't really do it so much anymore.
Right. No, I love that. And you keep saying that you took a while to launch, but I just think everybody's going to relate to that. I mean, I can. It's not that you took a while to launch, it's just that like you said, especially women, we've got all these ideas. I just feel like we're always like, what's next? What are we supposed to be doing? What is our purpose? And we're constantly thinking of that. And I go to a lot of networking events. I'm around women and they'll say, "Oh, I do this and this and this and this and this, and I'm a mom and I'm this and this and this." And I love it. I do the same thing. We're all very proud of what we're doing, but it's like we're constantly trying to just prove we've got all these things going on. And I really love what you said about sometimes there's things, quote unquote, that are small that
Yes.
really are very meaningful that we shouldn't lessen and we should take advantage of and try to do. You're inspiring me, and I'm sure you're inspiring the listeners too.
Think about this. You made me think of something. Okay, let's get real. Our parents are maybe in their 60s or 70s or whatever, and especially our grandparents, which my grandparents are not alive anymore, but I do not remember any of them from those generations talking about their purpose or what they needed to be doing. Go to work and come home from work, and they watch the evening news and they cook dinner and they put us all to bed and they go to sleep. And then the TV would cut off and go to snow at midnight with the national anthem, and everybody went to sleep, and that was. I cannot think of a single man or woman who was like, "I really need to be going out there and making sure I'm doing more in this life." Like, maybe they would like volunteer at church or volunteer as a school crossing guard or something like that, and then they were good. And that's like that. I wish that was kind of more like that now.
I do too. I mean, sometimes when my parents talk, they'll say, "Oh, it was so much better back then." And sometimes I'm like, "Okay, but there's some good things now. Let's be a little more positive." But that's definitely one thing that we could take from them for sure. Like, yeah, I was like your husband. I watched a lot of football yesterday and I thought to myself, I've got my phone in my hand and the TV on. Like, do I need both screens going the entire day? Which I guess I did because even though I was thinking that, I didn't turn anything off. So, yeah, this is a very good reflection for us all, for sure.
Yeah, just I don't know, maybe once a month, pretend like it's 1980 and you only have, 3 channels or 4 channels to watch on TV, and maybe a movie that you can rent from Blockbuster.
Rent. I love
and
it.
and you don't have a phone, so you put your phone away and just really like talk, and like young people used to talk, or they'd write notes in class, whatever. Just I just kind of, just some of that we don't want. I don't want to lose. I don't know. Some of
No,
that
I
I don't.
agree. And I can't wait to see what comes out of your very productive and fruitful year when you are incapacitated again.
I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write a book. No,
No, you
there it
don't
is.
have to have a
There it is.
plan.
Trying to be big, but no, I'm gonna actually still save it, because the other part is we all say this, and oh, we all say this, but how do we really think about it? So that tomorrow is not promised, right? Either for us or for our loved ones. So that first time I had really, thought about my mom, because we do think of our parents as older and not guaranteed, but sometimes our spouses are not guaranteed. I mean, no one's guaranteed. But I told my husband after being outside, this was after the game too, because I didn't want to, interrupt his game. But I said, what if we lived as if Lanee, only had 2 more years to live? He's like, what? I was like, I go to the doctor. There's nothing bad wrong with me. I don't have any problems coming up. And the reason I don't want to say like I'm going to die tomorrow, because if you feel like, okay, what if I die tomorrow? I don't know what the heck. You might do something really way out. But if you know that you've got 2 years to live, you've still got to be a little bit responsible. And you've also got to think about how you want to savor those last 2 years. And I said, like, if there's 2 years where I'm going to be healthy and happy,
Mhm.
and then boom, kaput. And he's like, why are you doing this? I'm saying, because I just think that we maybe talk to each other a little nicer when we get frustrated with arguments. Maybe we would make sure that if we're going to go to something, an event, that it's what we really want to go to and not just going just for show, what we're going to eat and do, and how we're going to spend time with our families. I got to go visit all these 6 siblings of mine before I go. It's just, I just wonder, what if we lived like that? And I told him too, it's the part about your spouse. Like, I didn't want him to think how he would live if he was going to pass away in 2 years, because I knew his was going to be crazy. But how would he do if he knew I was going to be? And then, for me to think about what if he was, because again, it just might make me treat him with more grace and love and appreciation.
Yeah, it's a very interesting perspective, and it's making me think of my son who, Lanee, I've been well,
Yes.
Tammy knows this too, like whining about the fact that he's 18 and he's gone and whatever. And he's
Yes.
only an hour away, but I think about that so much more. Like he actually surprised us this weekend, and I saw him for his soccer game on Friday, but then Saturday he came home and he didn't know he was going to do that. And when he goes to leave, he's only driving an hour away. I'm going to see him for another soccer game this coming week, but I hug him and hold on to him just for a second longer. Or,
Yes.
I want to make sure I tell him, I love you, drive carefully, because he's leaving. He's getting in his car and he's going away. And you just, not that you're thinking morbidly, like I may never see him again, but it's just those little moments. They're rare now. So you
Yeah.
want to take more advantage. And I really should be thinking about that with everybody.
With
Like if my
everybody.
husband goes to a meeting or something, I should say, I love you before he goes, because you just never know. And life is so precious. And we learned that big time with our last podcast guest, but we're learning it with you too. So really
Yeah,
good perspective.
it really is, because, and like you said, not to be morbid, but any person that I care about in my life, I feel like if something happened, I know that, like the last time, like you said, gave them a big hug. This used to start too with my grandparents. I was very blessed to have my grandparents for a long time. But my one grandmother, she was pretty traumatized because her husband, who was my grandpa, had been hit by a car and killed by when he was like 55, maybe. I was a little girl, I was 4 years old. And from that moment, I remember every single thing she would always preface with, well, if I'm still alive, well, if I'm still here. When I was going to graduate from high school, Grandma Susie, you're going to come to my graduate? If I'm still alive, when I, get married, you hopefully see if I'm still here. And then I said, well, if I have a baby, if I'm still alive. And then I had one child, and then she's like, why don't you have one more kid for me? Because I'm not going to be here much longer. And I just want to see another grandbaby. So I had my son, so that she would, she guilt tripped me. So I had, and then this chick lived to be 93 years old. My son was like 10 years old by the time I was 40 something. And then I'm like, Grandma Susie, she's like, I don't know what happened. I thought Father Time was coming after me, but he just didn't get me till now. I'm like, good grief. You've been telling me since you were 50 something years old that you were about to die. And every time I talk to her on the phone, I'd be ready for her. Like, oh my gosh, if she dies. And she'd say, Pumpkin, if I die tomorrow, you can put your head up and know that you were a good grandchild. And then, like, 15, 20 years later, she'd say it again.
That is
so,
so
so you
funny.
don't know the people that, that think they're going to go any minute. Maybe the ones that live long and the ones that think that they're going to live forever sometimes don't. So you just hug them all
Mm-hmm.
real tight.
Yeah, it reminds me of my dad. He always says, when I keel over, I'm like, Dad, could we use a different term?
Golly.
Can we not think about that? But anyway, obviously we could keep going with this,
Yeah.
but the last question I usually ask during this is what kind of advice would you give to other people? And I think you've been giving us all wonderful advice throughout this entire episode. So, wow, just a lot to think about. But feel free if there's any last message you would like to share.
The only thing I have is that you don't have to prove anything to yourself or to anyone else. I want to be an example of someone who tries to live life and see actual value in ourselves just for having been born and just for the kindness that we push out. That's it.
Oh, that's
That's it.
that's it. Again,
That's
mic
it.
drop.
Boom,
Um,
bam. Be kind, love yourself, know you have value because you get to love other people. That's it.
That's beautiful. Yes, that is amazing advice. And I'm glad Tammy's on because I keep telling everybody her story, which again, someday I'm going to have her tell her story by herself here. But, she just went through a job change. And I think we talk about it all the time, like, what are we doing next? Well, Tammy, you're doing a podcast, but she's like, no, what am I doing after that? What is my purpose? What am I working on? And it's like, give yourself some grace because you've done amazing things and you're pretty special just for being here.
Yeah. And I bet money, I'm going to bet y'all money. I bet that if Tammy sits, and it's hard, but to try to push the whole, what am I going to do next component over to the side, or even write it down on a sheet of paper and like sit it under a book and put it to the side and really like let go of it for a week or something. It's like the little molecules start coming together because you're not watching the pot, so the pot is cooking on its own. And then it's like, boom, fall something right into your lap, something just right tends to come along. And I'm not saying that people don't work hard and have a resume and stuff like that. I'm not saying that, but to let it simmer over to the side without touching it and checking on it and looking on it and worrying about it, it tends to make things blossom, but it's really hard to do.
It is really hard to do. I love that though, because it's like there's this pressure on people to like, oh, okay, what's next, right? I did all this, but I got to keep on going, and I feel pressured, so I like that. I love what you're
Yeah.
saying. Like, okay, just enjoy it.
Yeah. And
Enjoy it.
people are gonna like
Yeah.
almost sabotage that because they're gonna like, hey,
Yeah.
last time I talked to you, so what did you end up doing?
Yeah.
And and you say, well, I'm still in that process. I put my feelers out and I'm letting it cook.
I'm letting it simmer. Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's funny because yes, the listeners can't see us, but as we're recording, we're all looking at one another on the screen. And I know Tammy very well. I'm looking at her. I'm like, her mind is going right now. You could tell. So thanks for that
Yeah.
direct Tammy advice there.
Awesome.
Direct. It is,
Mhm.
and please don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. It is hard to do, and people will sabotage it, and people won't understand. So you'll have to like continually tell yourself, I'm still valuable, and I'm cooking. It's cooking, and it doesn't want to be watched. A watch pot
Watch
never
pop
boils.
Never
boils.
boils.
Yep, it doesn't want to
Yeah.
be watched, so I'm not going to watch it. This is going to be an exercise, and remember, it's not fun. It's a do not recommend, but there's something great that you're going to glean out of it, and
And
that
it's
you'll be able to
so
tell
the
others.
opposite of what our culture tells us to do right now.
Hustle,
Right?
hustle, 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 hustle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, stop that.
And that's what causes stress, right? It's the hustle that
Right.
causes the stress. And
And
then we,
sometimes the blockage, sometimes it causes an
yeah,
actual block of the blessings trying to get
yes,
through, but you're chasing it. And remember, I said how God told me to stop chasing it. I had been chasing, in that case, it was speaking opportunities, because I was like, I'm a motivational speaker. I need to go out there and search for opportunities. And God is like, don't chase it. Don't chase it. Let it come to you. And there were plenty that came to me. And then also it gave the opening and the space for the television and film stuff to pop up, which I would have been too clogged up if I don't know, Tammy, I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
let
Love it,
that
love it,
pot
love
cook.
it.
It might come up something that you didn't even realize was so right for you.
And now you know why
To be
Lanee
continued.
is, yes,
To be
to be continued.
continued.
Don't worry, she's on the list. We're
Updates,
gonna have a
updates.
Tammy episode, but this is why Lanee is the angel on my shoulder constantly. I'm just so grateful that I met you. You are a godsend for sure. I think there's a reason that everybody comes into your life, but you for sure, your reason came right away. And I'm just so grateful that you came on and shared your wisdom. And sometimes it might sound a little like black and white. This is how it goes, but sometimes we all need to hear it that way. So
Yeah.
you are quite the angel on our shoulders, and now you're on Tammy's shoulder too. You have a lot of responsibilities, Lanee.
It's all right. And that's what I said. That's why God has given me that time next year where I'll just have my feet
Yes.
up and elevated and relaxing. Cause I want to give credit to you too, Andrea, for being my friend, but also for being that friend who asks questions, which how appropriate that you two are on a podcast now. But you have always been the one to say, like you kind of preface it with, I don't mean to be such and such, and you ask this profound question that just really, really makes us dig in deep and answer for real, for real. And even with Tammy, you asked that question, kind of regarding Tammy. And now I hope and pray that it ends up helping not just Tammy, but other people who allow themselves to let their pot simmer with no guilt, no regret, just like, whatever.
Yes.
I feel like we need to bring that saying back, like,
Yes, we do.
whatever.
Well, um, I definitely wanna be respectful of time here, but you just made me think. So I've told a couple of people this on the podcast. You told me before I started this to come up with 52 titles, like a title for every week. And so I got so excited and I sat down like in one session and wrote all these titles down. And then I came up with all these people that I wanted to correlate with the title. And Tammy said, should you wait until we talk to the guest before coming up with the title? Because you might force them into that. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. I mean, that's not what I was thinking, but okay, if you say like you're my partner, I have to listen to you. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, whatever. I'll just make it. I'll make us get there. Well, the title I had for you was, and I've already changed almost every title
I
going
love it.
along.
I
So
love it.
she was right. She was right. But the title I had for you was Looking for Lovely because that was one of our Bible studies and it was one of my favorite ones. It really resonated with me. And when I think of you, it just this lovely smile and this lovely perspective. So that was my title. But I'm changing it to Let the Pot Simmer.
See, you've got to. And I bet that's the part about life. Like there's some group of people, individuals out there who needed that title even more than Looking for Lovely. I mean, Looking for Lovely in the middle of mess is kind of fun also.
Mhm.
As far as like that was more to that part, like I was kind of saying, even when things are kind of suckish and change happened that you didn't want it to
Mhm.
change, but then you can find something good from it. You can look for the lovely
Mhm.
within the mess. But then that letting the pot simmer is so important because if you don't, you might fall or have foot surgery. um, or second of all, you might end up feeling like you need to press and stress, and you end up harming your opportunities more than you are welcoming the opportunities that are waiting if you just let it simmer.
I love it. So yeah, that was us pivoting on the podcast. But that was such a great lesson for us all. It was so fun talking with you. So thank you so much for the perspective and you'll be in our thoughts and prayers next year and we also cannot wait to see and to promote the heck out of all of the things you're doing. I can't wait to see
Yes,
the
because
TV shows and the movies and
the podcast is Imagine Yourself
Mhm.
podcast. The movie is Rekindled for Christmas, and the television show is Blended. So yes,
Yes.
thank you for
Of
having me.
course. Thank you so much for being here and we're going to let that pot simmer and see what happens.
Sounds good. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for the Show Me the Way podcast. We truly appreciate you tuning in to today's episode about overcoming adversity and finding your path. We hope it brought you new insights, empowered you with perspective, and inspired you to find joy in your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who could use a little motivation. Until next time, keep seeking the light and showing the way.